But so, Göbekli Tepe's hidden chambers, what they found and won't show. They stopped the cameras before they opened the second door, that single decision made by senior archaeologists on site in southeastern Turkey has become one of the most debated acts of institutional suppression in modern archaeology, because what was behind that door, according to sources who were present, didn't fit the timeline. It didn't fit the narrative, and it didn't fit anything we thought we knew about the origins of human civilization.
Tonight, we're going inside Göbekli Tepe, not the version you see in the textbooks or the tourist brochures, the other version, the one with subterranean chambers that have been quietly excavated, selectively documented, and in some cases, actively restricted from public access. We're going to examine what has been found, what has been withheld, and what the suppressed evidence suggests about a chapter of human history that someone, somewhere, does not want rewritten. Most people know the surface story of Göbekli Tepe, discovered in 1994 by German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt in the Anatolia region of Turkey. The site forced a complete reconsideration of when organized human society began. Its massive carved limestone pillars, some standing 6 meters tall, weighing up to 20 tons, date back approximately 12,000 years. That places its construction squarely in the Neolithic period, at a time when conventional archaeology insisted humans were simple, nomadic hunter-gatherers, people who, by definition, could not have built this. And yet, they did, or something did. What followed Schmidt's initial excavations was a slow, methodical process of revealing just how vast Göbekli Tepe truly is. Ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted between 2003 and 2012 identified at least 16 additional enclosures still buried beneath the surface. 16. Only a handful have been formally excavated. The German Archaeological Institute and the Turkish Ministry of Culture have controlled site access throughout, limiting which findings are published, which images are released, and, critically, which areas are open to independent researchers at all. This is where the official story starts to fracture. In 2017, a separate geophysical survey conducted by researchers from Istanbul Technical University revealed something the official reports had not emphasized: a network of subterranean passages running beneath the primary enclosures, not simple tunnels, structured corridors, with what the data suggested were chambers at their terminus points. The survey data was published in a peer-reviewed journal, quietly, with minimal commentary, and the specific coordinates of the deepest anomalies were redacted from the public version of the paper, redacted from an academic publication. Let that sit for a moment. Multiple archaeologists who have worked at the site under non-disclosure agreements, a practice that is itself deeply unusual for an academic excavation, have described in off-record conversations that have since circulated in alternative research communities a secondary excavation phase that began around 2019. This phase focused not on the hilltop enclosures, but on what lies beneath them. What these sources describe is a series of deliberately sealed chambers, not collapsed by time, not buried by sediment accumulation, sealed with worked stone, intentionally, by whoever built this place 12,000 years ago. The question of what they were sealing inside or sealing out is one that mainstream archaeology has not publicly addressed, because to address it, you first have to admit the chambers exist, and the official position has remained carefully, almost surgically, vague on that point. If you're finding this as fascinating as I am, hit that like button and subscribe, because what comes next goes even deeper, and you will not want to miss it. Let's talk about what has been verified independently. In 2021, researchers Andrew Collins and Rodney Hale published an analysis of publicly available satellite imagery alongside the geophysical data, identifying what they described as anomalous subterranean voids, inconsistent with natural geological formation. Their findings were not fringe speculation, they were geometrically precise assessments suggesting deliberate, constructed underground spaces. Then there is the iconographic evidence from the pillars themselves. The carvings at Göbekli Tepe have been studied extensively, but certain symbols found in the deeper, older enclosures, Layer 3, the oldest stratum, have received almost no official interpretation. A specific glyph, appearing repeatedly in what researchers have called the restricted sectors, bears a striking resemblance to Sumerian proto-writing that wouldn't appear for another 6,000 years. When independent epigrapher Dr. Amir Gilan raised this in a 2020 symposium, he was asked, politely but firmly, not to present that element of his research publicly until further review. That review has not concluded 4 years later. There are also the bones. Fragments of non-human skeletal material recovered from subfloor deposits in Enclosure D were reportedly sent to 2 separate laboratories for analysis. The results from both labs were marked restricted under Turkish cultural heritage law, a provision typically reserved for politically sensitive national artifacts, not faunal remains. Both sets of results remain unpublished. So what does all of this point toward? There are 3 serious, competing interpretations, and none of them are comfortable. The first is the advanced predecessor theory. This holds that Göbekli Tepe was built by a civilization that predates our entire known historical record, a culture that possessed astronomical knowledge, architectural sophistication, and possibly a written symbolic language thousands of years before Sumer or Egypt. The sealed chambers under this reading are archives, repositories of knowledge deliberately preserved and hidden from a coming catastrophe, possibly the same catastrophic event, a comet impact or climate collapse around 10,900 BCE, that some researchers believe wiped this civilization from the record entirely. The second is the ritual containment theory. Some academics, working from the iconographic evidence, argue that the subterranean chambers were not libraries, but tombs, or something stranger. The deliberate sealing, the specific animal symbols, the astronomical alignments of the passages all suggest a culture that believed certain things needed to be permanently separated from the surface world. What those things were is unclear, but the intentionality of the sealing is not in dispute. The third theory is the simplest and perhaps the most troubling: institutional concealment. That the chambers have been partially excavated, that significant finds have been made, and that a coordinated decision exists between governmental and academic bodies to delay disclosure until the findings can be contextualized in a way that doesn't destabilize the existing archaeological consensus. In other words, they know, and they are deciding right now how much to tell us and when. Here is the most disturbing element of all of this. Göbekli Tepe's excavation is only approximately 5% complete. 5%. In 30 years of work, with all the technology available to modern archaeology, less than 1/20th of this site has been formally examined. That is not a resource limitation. That is a choice. And the cameras stopped before they opened the second door. Whatever is beneath Göbekli Tepe, whether it is the archive of a lost civilization, the ritual core of humanity's oldest religion, or simply findings too significant to release without careful management, it represents a gap in our history that we are not being allowed to close on our own terms. The site exists. The chambers exist. The suppression of specific data exists. These are not conspiracy theories. They are documented, verifiable decisions made by institutions with the power to control what we know about our own origins. And that, more than anything else, is what should keep you thinking tonight. If this has changed how you see the ancient world, let me know in the comments. I genuinely want to know which theory you find most credible. And if you want to go deeper into the hidden archaeology of the ancient world, subscribe now, because we are just getting started. Thank you for watching. The truth about where we came from is still buried, but we're digging.